are many people paying attention. There are many now who see the big lie.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It's Tuesday, September 9, 2025. And if you haven't had enough of the propagandizing, the gaslighting, the manipulating, the deception, oh man, I've had it with the media, I've had it with the public officials, and hopefully they understand it when I say,
You won't be trusted anymore.
I gotta ask, what do they have to do? What do they have to do to regain our trust? I don't know if there's anything that they can. Anyway, like I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the WTF Reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist. And yes, it's Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday. That's the priority. Everybody got to get your tacos. Anyway, oh man, I'll tell you, it's all just getting really, it couldn't get any crazier. We're living in a clown world. We really are. And there are a couple of issues that I want to get to today. And but before I get started, I want to remind you that, yes, you can call in if you're listening live, and we broadcast live from 2 until 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 11 a.m. to 12 noon Pacific Time. Do the math. If you're in the mountain zone, well, that's 12 noon. And if you're in the central, well, it's 1 o'clock, or actually it's about 1:07 at this point. But you can call in. It's 215-867-8255. You can participate, and I encourage you to do so. And this broadcast is brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. Yeah, I'm wearing mine right now, and I started running a program on my hearing. Being a musician, and as we get older, sometimes we need to get a little help with our hearing, and I don't want to go and spend all this money for hearing aids, so I'm going to run some programs and see if this is going to help my hearing. It did help my eyesight, no doubt about it. I used to have to use my reading glasses just to read the newspaper. And after using the Wave Watch and eye program, after about, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, I picked up the newspaper and I could actually read the print. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. Now, it seems to, it really helped with that, so I figured I'd switch around. I'm going to see how it works with my hearing. But hey, listen, this is pretty good technology. It's based on Rife technology, and if you haven't found out about the Wave Watch, you really need to find out, because it's a Rife machine you wear on your wrist. So visit our website, TheWTFReports.com, and click on the little link there for the Wave Watch, and it'll give you all the kinds of information. If you decide to purchase, you're going to save $100 if you use the promo code REDPILL100, the Wave Watch. Okay, a couple of things I want to get to, but before I get started, sometimes the solution to a problem can sometimes be the easiest. Sometimes the solution looks so simple that it couldn't possibly work. Now, maybe I'm a little nuts, but there's a lot of information now coming out about the 2020 election. And of course, the subject of election fraud has been on the topic of conversation for a lot of people for a lot of years. As a matter of fact, back in 2004, that's 21 years ago, folks. There was an HBO documentary called Hacking Democracy, and it was done by Beverly Harris. And that documentary was focusing in on the Diebold and Sequoia voting machines and how easy it was for them to be hacked. Now, of course, this was 21 years ago, and we're still going through this. And we sit there and we wonder, how is it that some of these corrupt politicians keep getting elected? We look at what's going on in California. What's going on, in Illinois, in New York, all over the country. How is it that these corrupted individuals, and everybody knows they're corrupt, how do they keep getting elected? How did Nancy Pelosi keep getting elected? How did Dianne Feinstein keep getting elected? How does, Adam Schiff keep getting, how do these people keep getting in there? Could it be voter fraud? I think so. You think? Well, I do have a solution for that, and I talked about it, 20 years ago after viewing the HBO documentary that Bev Harris did. And this sounds stupid simple, and it's not the most accurate way, but it for sure would make people stop and look at the results of the vote And what I call it boots on the ground voting, okay? And here's how it works. Okay, on election day, first of all, you got to make the election day a national holiday, okay? Everything shuts down. This is too damned important to not do that, okay? Now, here's how it works. All right, everybody, first of all, you got to be registered. Yeah, you got to show ID. Yeah, that's common sense. Of course, a lot of people are going to push back against that, but I don't care. But anyway, the point is, after you vote, you have a party. Now, you got a Democrat party and you got a Republican party and you got an independence party, whatever. The point is that every town, every village, every city, whatever, they all have precincts, okay? And the precincts, in smaller cities, you don't have to have a whole lot of them. But the bottom line here is that you plan a party. Yeah, you have a Democratic party, like a tailgate thing, all right? And the same thing with a Republican party. You have a party. And the way it works is that after you vote, you gather at a particular location that's specified for your party. So let's say the baseball field is where all the Democrats are going to hang out. You go and you vote, and then you go to a party. Yeah, you have your barbecue, you bring your food, crack a couple beers or whatever it is that you want to do. Whenever you go to a tailgate party, this is what you're going to do. So after you vote, if you vote for your Democratic candidate, then you go to the Democratic Party. And the same thing with the Republicans. You go and you vote, and if you vote Republican afterwards, okay, let's see, the Democrats are going to meet at the baseball field, and let's say the Republicans are going to go meet at the soccer field or whatever. And then at a specific time, like say, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you take a picture. Think about that. Okay, so if you've got 200 people that show up at the Democrat Party, and you have 2,000 people show up at the Republican Party, okay, you got video evidence of supporters for that particular candidate or that particular party in that particular precinct. So when the results come in and they try to tell you, it was 51-49% for this candidate or that candidate, you go, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, how could that possibly be? We had 10 times more people at this party than we did at that party. So I don't know, maybe that's oversimplified. And I know there's some flaws in that philosophy, but you'd have photographic evidence of the numbers of people that showed out for one particular candidate. All right, so that's one solution. And I know it sounds stupid, okay? Now, I got another one here, another solution. Okay, everybody's losing their cookies because of what's going on with ICE and the raids and all this stuff. And, people are not showing up for work because they're scared that they're going to get nabbed by ICE, et cetera, et cetera. It's simple. If you're a citizen of this country, you've got some sort of ID. You got a passport, you got a driver's license, you got something like that. So you shouldn't have anything to worry about. So if ICE comes into your community, you hold up your ID, say, hey, ICE, I'm right here. Hey, listen, I'm a citizen. You don't have to come after me. You don't have to come after me. Okay? However, the people that are running away, it makes it easier to find them. Yeah, I know that's similar to show us your papers. Yeah, I know that, but we are at a very critical time in this country. And for all those people that are screaming, hey, you didn't vote for this, did you? Well, no, I didn't vote for it. The Democrats did. Back in the Biden administration, they put Biden-Harris in there. Harris became the quote-unquote border czar. And they let all these illegal immigrants in. And again, I pointed it out numerous times on this broadcast that many of them are military-age males between the ages of 20 and 40. You look at the pictures of real immigrants, and you got kids, you got moms and dads and stuff like that. Yeah, those are real immigrants. But you look at some of the pictures of these, huge throngs of males coming across. If you're going to immigrate, you don't leave your family behind, do you? No. So anyway, the point is that, like I said, if everybody is legally here, it shouldn't be too difficult to show your ID and say, hey, hey, ICE, how you doing? Let me shake your hand. I appreciate you getting all these illegals out of here, all these drug dealers and, human traffickers and muggers and thieves and murderers. Yeah, let's get them out of here. So anyway, that's another really stupid solution. I don't know, that probably wouldn't work, but I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Now, thirdly, and now this is going to get real hairy. This is going to get real tricky because we're hearing more and more and more about horrific crimes that are being committed by either mentally ill individuals or drug traffickers or sex offenders, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of these individuals have been arrested numerous times. Now, this guy that, of course, it's all in the news right now about the Ukrainian woman who was slaughtered on the rail system in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this madman, he had been arrested 14 times. 14 times. Now, how is it that they keep letting these people out? How is it they got no cash bail? Now, here's a solution. Let's say a perpetrator is arrested for a crime, whether it be rape or whatever like that, and then they use the revolving door technique, and they let him back out into the public again. If he goes and commits another crime, I suggest that whatever crime he commits, that the person, the judge, or the mayor, or whoever it was that was behind the policy that let this guy back out, whenever he commits a second crime, the person that let him out has to also have the same penalty. So if he gets 10 years in prison, well, then that judge or mayor or whatever, they should get 10. You watch how quickly that crap would stop. I mean, that would stop in a real hurry. But I got to tell you, it's nuts what is going on with the catch and release programs. Let me see if I can. Yeah, here it is. I was going to play this audio clip. Somebody posted on X. And by the way, X, I get a lot of stuff from X. Yeah, I get some stuff from Instagram, and I don't do TikTok too much, but I do have my news feeds. Yeah, I check out the different networks and stuff like that. But I got to tell you, people are posting all kinds of interesting information on X. And by the way, if you do use X, I invite you to visit my X page, Dave vonKleist, the WTF Reports. I'm posting a lot of that stuff. A lot of these audio clips, you'll find them there because I post them or repost them. But anyway, give a listen to this. This is an individual who posted, and yeah, he's furious. I don't blame him. Listen up.
Did you know that horrible, heinous attack to that young Ukrainian girl in Charlotte, North Carolina on that train happened over 2.5 weeks ago? 2.5 weeks, and that story was kept quiet because this individual, take a good look at her, Mayor of Charlotte, Vi Lyles, didn't want the story released to the public. Was she afraid that Trump was going to get a whiff of it and send the National Guard into Charlotte and clean up the mess there? Well, he knows now, and I hope he sends them in. Let's take a look at this New York Post article and look at the last paragraph. Charlotte's Democratic mayor, she even thanked publications that chose to keep the video from the public. Do you believe that? She didn't want this out to the public? Unbelievable. Now let's take a look at this person. You ready? Take a good look at her. That's Judge Teresa Stokes. Take a good look. She was the last person, the last judge to let that thing back out on the street. After 14 prior arrests, she let him back out on the street. I'm sure having the same skin tone as her helped too. Yeah, failed progressive policies, no cash bail, no consequences whatsoever. The real patriots of this country who want law and order and safe, clean cities have had enough. The fact that there's individuals protesting in Chicago and D.C. not to have Trump come in there and clean up the mess and the crime is absolutely mind-boggling to me. The real people, the real patriots of this country, we had enough.
We have had enough. I agree. When does this madness stop? And when do these individuals who keep releasing these people into the public, when are they going to be held accountable? Because as far as I'm concerned, they are the ones who have blood on their hands. And it's happening over and over and over. There was a 4-year-old girl who was raped and given a SIDS. And the individual who did that had also been arrested like 7 times for sexual harassment, sexual abuse, et cetera. And they keep letting these monsters out. Well, that's why I'm saying the last person who was to release them should suffer the same penalties. I mean, I know this sounds a little draconian, but I mean, how do you stop this? How do you stop these insane people from doing this? And what motivates them to do this? You know, I mean, you look at what happened, okay, with the George Floyd issue. Now, George Floyd, we now know, was a drug dealer. We know that the reason the police were called in the first place is because he was passing a counterfeit $20 bill. We also know that he was a porn star, making porn films, abusing women. And this guy, they held him up, and Derek Chauvin, he's in prison right now. And the autopsy showed that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose. The coroner said there was no damage to his larynx and his neck. So the point is that we ended up kicking off an entire, I mean, remember the summer of love in Seattle and Portland and all these insane protests and riots, et cetera, all because of the George Floyd thing, and that was generated by the media. And the media would not tell you the truth about what happened with that. So, I mean, what is motivating them to do this? Maybe they're not America first. What's motivating them? I don't know. But anyway, as a matter of fact, Jasmine Crockett, oh my God, this woman, I think there are several different rocks that are smarter than she is. But you want to hear what she said about law enforcement? Listen to this. This is craziness.
I want to be clear that, like, law enforcement isn't to prevent crime. Law enforcement solves crime, okay? That is what they're supposed to do. They are supposed to solve crimes, not necessarily prevent them from happening.
What? What? This is insanity. I'm dumbfounded by that she would actually say something like that. So according to that philosophy, you're not supposed to do anything if there's a school shooting going on. You don't go in there to try to prevent him from killing anybody else. No, you sit outside until he's done, and then you go in and try to figure out what happened. This is just insanity. And she's a member of Congress. My gosh. I don't know. I'm just exasperated. What do you think? What do you think? Give me a call, 215-867-8255. If, I don't know, some of the solutions I just threw out there to solve some of these problems, maybe they're overly simplified. But, we got to do something. Drastic times call for drastic measures. But anyway, yesterday I was focusing in on the globalist agenda to basically reduce the population. Now, that is their stated goal. I mentioned it yesterday. It was etched in stone in the Georgia Guidestones, and you got very powerful, prominent individuals who have been saying so for a long time. You got Bill Gates, you got Jane Goodall, you got Larry Fink, you got David Rockefeller. I mean, here's a few clips. I played this yesterday. I'm going to do it again. Here it is.
A fact of reducing population growth. That's this big benefit.
The
Gates.
population growth goes down as we improve health.
Larry Fink.
In the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations.
Oh my gosh.
I would like to reduce the number of people on the planet
Jane
because
Goodall.
there's too many of us.
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Yeah, and people applauded that. This is just madness. Just madness. Let me see. I have several clips here. Let me see. I don't know which order I'll do them in. I don't think it really matters. Here is Angus Dalglish talking about the vaccine and how insane this is. Listen to this one.
But I think we're here today to discuss, the dreadful use of vaccines and the mandates that have caused so much problem. And it's very clear now that why on earth did they do this? I mean, I have no idea, because from the very beginning, these vaccines were not vaccines, particularly the ones that ended up after AstraZeneca with all the clots and they were shut down. But the messenger RNA vaccines of Pfizer and Moderna have caused unbelievable problems and damage to people, and I don't think we will ever really be able to get over that. It was absolutely abhorrent that they would even think of this, and they were pushed into this by Pfizer and all the people that Pfizer and Moderna wanted to get this into absolutely everybody. These were not vaccines. These were horrible gene therapies that could actually integrate into your genome. And this is one of the reasons we're seeing this horrendous rise in turbo cancers. I'm terrified what they have done to our children. I think everybody who went along to that should actually stand up to trial, defend themselves, and go to court. This is unbelievable, the incompetence, medical negligence, everything, and nobody is accepting responsibility for this. And they have to be held. This is Nuremberg trial stuff. They are so awful. They were never, ever effective. I've looked at the first submissions of Pfizer to the FDA. There was no evidence that they were effective whatsoever. It was basically hope. And they were never, ever safe.
That's right. And folks, this now points to the fact that this was deliberate. This is part of their plan to reduce the population. Matter of fact, Bill Gates was pushing for more vaccines by the year 2030. Here's another clip from Bill Gates. Whoop, let me see. Here it is. Bang. There we go.
By the end of the decade, we'll have 5 or more vaccines available to all the children of the world. And finally, by the end of this decade, every country can have a delivery system to make sure that those vaccines are getting out to every single child. And that will allow us to move on to other very, very ambitious goals. And for all 193 member states, you must make vaccines a high priority in your health systems to ensure that all your children have access to existing vaccines now and to the new vaccines that have recently become available.
Yep, they're going to keep on going with it, folks. They're not going to stop. They're just not going to stop. As a matter of fact, there was a new vaccine introduced this past April called Vaxilis, and a doctor was discussing what is printed on the information sheet. I mean, and it's in the open. It's right in your face. Listen to this, Vaxilis.
It's Thursday, April 17th. I want to share with you a product that's on the market, a vaccine called Vaxilis. I pulled the package insert, and here it is. This is insane. This vaccine has 6 vaccines in one: diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, polio, Haemophilus B, and hepatitis B. 6 in one. Let's take a look at the package insert. First of all, they tell us that epinephrine and other appropriate agents and equipment must be available for immediate use if you're going to be giving this vaccination. Okay, you got my attention. This vaccine is indicated for 6 weeks old through 4 years old. It goes on to say a review by the Institute of Medicine found evidence for a causal, not correlation, causal relationship between tetanus toxoid, one of the components, and both brachial neuritis and Guillain-Barré syndrome. Look that up, Guillain-Barré. It's a type of paralysis. It looks a lot like polio. It also says apnea, that's difficulty breathing, you kind of stop breathing, following intramuscular vaccination, has been observed in some infants. Oh, but it gets better. First of all, studies that brought this product to market, there is not a single randomized controlled study with an inert placebo. It's only tested against other vaccinations. Ingredients, you're going to love this. 319 micrograms of aluminum is used as an adjuvant. That is, it stimulates the immune system to wake up to the antigens that are in this vaccine. Other ingredients: formaldehyde, bovine serum albumin, that's albumin or protein that comes from cows. Then they put some antibiotics in here: neomycin, streptomycin, polymyxin B. What could possibly go wrong? And of course, my favorite part, section 13.1. It's right here. I'm not making this up. Vaxilis has not been evaluated for carcinogenic or mutagenic potential or impairment of fertility.
Now, could this possibly be incompetence? Could it possibly be that they just made a mistake over and over and over and over and over again? How many times does it have to, let me ask you this. How often does something have to happen when it's no longer coincidence? They're absolutely deliberately trying to kill us. As a matter of fact, RFKjr was talking about the emergency use authorization. How did they get the emergency use authorization? And I played this clip earlier. I'll play it again because it's so doggone important. Here it is.
Tony Fauci's problem is this. There's a little-known federal law that says you cannot give an emergency use authorization to a vaccine if there is any medication approved for any purpose that is shown effective against the target disease. So if Tony Fauci or anybody had admitted that hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin are effective against COVID, it would have been illegal for them to give the emergency use authorizations to the vaccines, and they could never have gotten them approved. And it would have been, a $200 billion enterprise that would have collapsed.
That is fascinating. I mean, I have been covering this very closely now for all of the 2 years. That's the first I've heard that. In your book.
It's Megyn Kelly.
So he would not have gotten emergency use authorization for the vaccine if the medical community had been saying ivermectin works. It is an effective treatment for COVID.
Well, the medical community, a lot of it was saying that. I mean, there's 17,000 doctors who've signed a petition, and there are so many peer-reviewed publications now that consistently say that, but he had to aggressively crusade against it to kind of drown out those reports by saying it's a horse medication, it's, people are taking it and it's dangerous and it's overdosing people. And,
well, why did he keep saying it? Why did he keep saying it after he got his authorization?
Well, even if you have the emergency use authorization, the law appears to say you can't have it anymore if there's a functioning medication.
Bingo.
So, that may be why. Again, I try not to look in his head, but I do. There's a very, very strong incentive for him to kill ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. And, there are many doctors, including Harvey Reich of Yale, who's one of the leading biostatisticians, epidemiologists in the world. Peter McCulloch, who is the most published doctor in the history of the world in his specialty. Pierre Corey, these doctors who've treated tens of thousands of COVID patients successfully, they consistently say, and the science supports this, that 500,000 Americans did not need to die.
That's right. They didn't have to die because ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine were known to be effective against the infection. But that's why the media and why Gates and why the NIH and the CDC and the WHO and all of the, Pfizer, et cetera, they want to protect their profits. It's about making money and reducing the population. So for them, it's a win-win. They want to get rid of as many people as possible and make as much money as possible. And it wasn't just about selling the vaccines. No, remember during the pandemic, every test that was given, remember the PCR test that they were given, which we know that it was faulty. They were giving a lot of false positives, but for every positive result, they were getting paid $13,000 at the hospitals. And for every COVID diagnosis, they were being paid something like $39,000 because that's when they would get to use the protocol. The protocol was Remdesivir and the ventilators. And here's what RFK said about the Remdesivir, and we already knew this. A 54% mortality rate, kidney failure, organ failure. Listen to Kennedy again.
You want to treat them at home. Give them the things that we know kill viral replication. Zinc and anything that enhances zinc, like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and 100 other remedies that we now know dramatically reduce the spread of this disease. And what was our protocol? Our protocol was to do none of that. No treatment until you go to the hospital. And then your treatment are two things that are bound to kill you: ventilators and Remdesivir. And Tony Fauci knew that Remdesivir would kill you. He knew that because in 2019, he tried to use it for Ebola. 2019, he tried to use it for Ebola, and within 5 days of treatment, it gave lethal side effect to 54% of the people, and the Safety Monitoring Board ordered him to terminate the use of that drug. And he, through a phony, contrived, absolutely fraudulent study that he manipulated and orchestrated, got that drug made standard of care. It is homicide. And if you look, how does it kill people? 2 ways, 3 ways: kidney failure, heart failure, and all organ collapse. And what happened to the people who died in the pandemic? What were they dying of? Kidney failure. All the doctors said, you heard it again and again, we've never seen a virus that attacks the kidneys. Because it wasn't the virus.
That's right.
It was the Remdesivir.
That's right. It was the Remdesivir. And if you do a little search on Remdesivir, hey, who manufactures Remdesivir? It's GlaxoSmithKline. And who are the major shareholders in GlaxoSmithKline? Follow the money trail, folks. It turns out that some of the board members at the NIH, the National Institute of Health, which is headed up by Tony Fauci, they have financial interests in GlaxoSmithKline. This is not hard to figure out. It's all about the money, folks. And once again, here's RFKjr talking about the financial incentives to keep on giving out these poisonous pokes. Here it is.
50% of revenues to most pediatricians come from vaccines. There's a whole structure where Blue Cross and the other insurance companies pay bonuses to the pediatrician. For example, 95% of their clients are fully vaccinated. They get huge bonuses. It could be tens of thousands of dollars. And that's why your pediatrician, if you say, I want to go slow on the vaccines or I want to have a little different schedule, your pediatrician will throw you out of his practice.
That's right. They'll throw you out. And as a matter of fact, I've got the document right here, right in my hand, what he was just talking about, the financial incentives for the physicians to push the pokies, the hokey pokey thingy dingies. This is a printout from Anthem, Blue Cross, and Blue Shield Medicaid. This is the CV-19 Vaccine Provider Incentive Program, right here in black and white. And I read, it says, getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is one of the best and safest ways people can protect themselves and their families against the virus. As a participating practice in the COVID-19 Provider Vaccine Incentive Program, we recognize your hard work by offering incentives for helping patients make the choice to become vaccinated. And it goes into another paragraph about eligibility and about how the results will be calculated for 2 time periods. Let me see, the initial time period from September 1st, 2021, and the second one was going to be December 31st, 2021. It's a 6-month period. And then it goes in to say how you can qualify for a bonus. If your practice meets the below thresholds for vaccination with at least 1 dose by September 1st, 2021, you will receive the initial incentive payment based on the following rates. Get this. If you have 30% Anthem members vaccinated, you get $20 bonus per vaccinated member. If you get 40% Anthem members vaccinated, you get $45 bonus per vaccinated member. 50% Anthem members vaccinated, you get $70 bonus. 60% Anthem members, you get $100 bonus. 75% Anthem members vaccinated, you get $125 bonus per vaccinated member. The final incentive payment is calculated based on members who are newly vaccinated between September 1st, 2021 and December 31st, 2021. See the appendix for the calculation examples. If your practice meets the below thresholds for vaccination with at least one dose by December 1st, 2021, you will receive a final incentive payment based upon the following rates. Listen to this. If you get 30% Anthem members vaccinated, you get a $100 bonus per newly vaccinated member. 40% will give you a $150 bonus per newly vaccinated member. I mean, this is not about health. It's not about saving lives. And again, that the issue about these vaccines, it's the information it's overwhelming. As a matter of fact, Senator Ron Johnson is having a hearing as we speak right now. It's live. It's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. And let me see. And I got one more clip after this, and that's going to blow your mind. Anyway, here's Senator Ron Johnson.
Well, I'm going to be holding a hearing on Tuesday with Aaron Siri, who has made me aware of a study that was conducted, a very high-quality study that compares vaccinated versus unvaccinated children and shows that the vaccinated are dramatically more prone to chronic illness than the unvaccinated. Now, this study was completed in 2020, and then they sat on it. It's been, they never published it, even though they promised that they would. So we're going to have Aaron Siri describe exactly what happened next Tuesday, so stay tuned. But that's part of the problem. Science has been corrupted. One of the ways they corrupted is where you do have studies that are counter to the narrative, the pro-vaccine narrative. And again, I'm not anti-vax. I just have an open mind. Right. I acknowledge the fact that their vaccine injuries are real. They are severe, both on the childhood schedule as well as the COVID injection.
So that hearing is going on as we speak. Now, I want to share with you an audio from Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove. Now, this was, I think this is in 2022. And it's important because this is how they were manipulating everybody. And by the way, I'll tell you who this doctor is after you hear this. Listen to this.
The world has administered 13.5 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccines. The goal of vaccines for COVID-19 is to prevent severe disease and death. And for many people, when they have vaccines, if they've had a number of doses, within 6 months to 12 months, that protection lasts against severe disease and death. For us, according to our SAGE recommendations, among the highest risk groups, again, these are older individuals over 75, 80 years old, or older individuals with underlying conditions, to get an additional dose within 6 to 12 months. We're working with governments to ensure vaccination continues, to make sure that we focus on the most at-risk people in all countries. But when it's your turn to be vaccinated, follow your local guidance. Get vaccinated. And there are many updated COVID-19 vaccines that are now available, and even the vaccines that are based on the ancestral strain still provide protection against severe disease and death for all of the circulating variants. Not only does vaccination prevent against severe disease, the acute disease that you have and your risk of hospitalization, but also from these longer-term consequences like post-COVID conditions. So vaccination is one really important tool that we have at our disposal, and that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's been going across the board, and I got to tell you, who is this woman? Who is this individual? Well, it seems that she has connections. Yes, Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove. She is basically from the WHO. What do you know? She's an acting director of the Department of Epidemic and Pandemic Prevention and Preparedness in the Health Emergencies Program of the World Health Organization, the WHO. No wonder Trump is wanting to pull out of that. Now, there's something else, as I'm mentioning Trump, that, whoop. No. Well, as a matter of fact, that's I was going to pause that for a second. Save that for a second because let me see. As a matter of fact, this was several years ago. I made a little parody here. I can only play a piece of this. Listen to this. Oh, never mind. Forget that. Oh, gosh. All right. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday. I'm going to take the audio. It was a video out there of some doctors that were doing some tests, and they were looking at the ingredients to these hokey-pokey thingy-dingies. And this is what they found, and this is what Donald Trump posted on Truth Social. Why would he post this? Get the wheels turning. Listen to this.
Show them the Thimerisol bottle, which we keep in a metal container because we're a little afraid of it, and it's a very fine powder.
This is Thimerisol, which is labeled very toxic. Has cumulative effects, can cause damage to the kidneys, to the respiratory system, skin, to the nervous system. It specifically warns on here that it can cause reproductive and developmental toxicity, meaning that it can cause things like autism and other neurodevelopmental disorders. This is immensely toxic stuff.
And it's in vaccine.
And this is what's in the vaccine. It's important to realize we're talking about a whole range of products. Vaccines are a big one because, of course, you're directly injecting it. For example, this is tetanus vaccine. This one expires, it's a little outdated now, in 2007. Here's the Thimerisol. 1 to 10,000 is a preservative. Perhaps the biggest one in the U.S., at least, that's for exposure to mercury is the influenza vaccine. Influenza vaccine is now recommended for all pregnant women, all infants, all children on a yearly basis. You're supposed to
have last year's influenza one? Understand that Thimerisol is not added at the end. It's not like, well, that factory next year can make Thimerisol free. Thimerisol, you either have to have a Thimerisol free factory or you have to not have one. They add Thimerisol at each step because the factory is not clean and not sterile. So you either have to have an expensive sterile factory where you don't need Thimerisol, or you have to have one that produces Thimerisol. It's going to need Thimerisol or something the whole time. It needs to be stopped.
This is the influenza vaccine from Adventist Pasteur, their flu zone. Thimerisol, 25 micrograms of mercury per dose.
I'd like to point out that a lot of people didn't know, and I'm one of them. I've given 2,000 Rogam shots. I've been in vaccines for 35 years. I didn't know that Rogam had Thimerisol in it. So I think a lot of the doctors were unaware. They were unaware that even the word Thimerisol meant mercury.
Isn't that interesting? What's interesting is that Trump would post that. Now, a lot of these doctors didn't know. Maybe Trump didn't know. He was being given advice from all of these, supposed medical authorities. Maybe they were feeding him horse hockey and bull crap. And now he posts this, and he's pointing out that this Thimerisol, or mercury, is in all the vaccines. Isn't that amazing? So how is the table being set? What is going on now? Maybe, Del Bigtree from Highwire, he made an announcement a week or so ago. He said all hell's going to break loose because they've got all the information, and they're going to be putting it out very, very shortly. We're going to have to see how this all plays out, because I got a funny feeling that heads are going to roll, and I certainly hope that they do. Now, a lot of folks, Trump supporters and MAGA supporters and all that, myself included, I've been having some real doubts about what the heck is going on with the Trump administration. He's cozying up and snuggling up to some of the worst human beings on this planet. Look no further than the dinner that he had last week with Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Sam Altman and all these other big, big globalist people. And he's been snuggling up to Peter Thiel, and he's been snuggling up to Larry Ellison. Larry, is that his name? I can't remember. But from Oracle. But the point is, I don't know, maybe, as Sun Tzu says, you hold your friends close, but you hold your enemies closer. Is it possible and that this is all linked to the Epstein issue and the lists and the names? Is it possible, that it was a blackmail operation, obviously run by some Middle Eastern country, and, we don't know which one it was. Maybe Dan Bongino can help us out with that. But the bottom line here is that, we all know that the honeypot issue is a blackmail operation. And it's been being done by Mossad, which is Israel. just maybe, that blackmail thing has been flipped on its head. I don't know, but we know that heads have got to roll here. We have to see some sort of justice. And a lot of folks are saying, well, gosh, if you were to expose all these names, and I mentioned this before, I mean, we are talking the biggest names on the planet. We're talking about world leaders, princes, emirs, presidents, prime ministers. We're talking about moguls in the industries, all the different industries, the pharmaceutical industry, Hollywood, the media, news industries. I mean, if you were to expose all that, we would see a massive collapse across the world. So maybe to prevent that from happening, maybe the chess pieces are being moved around the board to make them comply. I don't know. This is really heavy, deep stuff. And I don't think humanity has ever been here before. In the meantime, to change gears a little bit, the issue about what's been going on with Israel and the Palestinians, et cetera, well, there was a meeting that was going on in Qatar where the Hamas leaders were trying to negotiate a peace deal, which, of course, the Israelis don't want. They don't want peace over there. They're just bombing the crap out of Damascus right now. Well, they threw a bomb into Qatar. Israel doesn't want peace. If you do a search, just type in Greater Israel, do a search on Greater Israel, and then look at the images. And you'll see Bibi Netanyahu holding up a map of the Middle East, showing the territories that he wants to take over. Jordan, Yemen, Libya. They're expansionists. They're not going to be satisfied just to take over Palestine. No, they want a good part of the Middle East. So they're not ever going to stop bombing and attacking, and they're going to drag the United States in there. And this is, unfortunately, it's a very painful waking up process, and you know how it is when you wake up a baby, the baby's all cranky and everything. Well, that's unfortunately what's going on around the world. People don't want to be awakened from their slumber, but when you force them awake, they're not too happy about it. And that's sort of what's going on. But I'll tell you right now, this whole thing, of all the nations that are members of the UN, there's only 2 of them that don't want to recognize Palestine. They don't want any of the president of Palestine to be able to present to the UN body. And so what's the tactic that's being used? The United States is refusing to offer a visa for the president of Palestine to come to New York and present at the UN. Well, guess what they're going to do? They're going to change the location to have that meeting to Geneva, which means that the United States doesn't get to prevent the president of Palestine from presenting. Listen to this.
This is huge news for freedom-loving people, especially activists that have been fighting for the Palestinian liberation. The UN Assembly is going to move to Geneva after the United States bars the Palestinian nation from presenting a case to be saved. And as we have seen time and time again, the entire rest of the world, 154 nations to 2, is voting to liberate. But the reason that gets blocked is that the United Nations General Council is typically in New York, and they refuse to give the visas appropriate so that the Palestinian president can come in and present his case. Because any action that the government takes, even globally, requires a formal motion or request for said action to come to fruition. So without a visa, it's kind of a sneaky trick to keep Mr. Abbas from presenting that motion to the World Court. So when we are confused as to why the world military organizations are not stepping in a humanitarian mission, this is why. There needs to be a small formality in the form of a motion or request for said protection. And I highly encourage everyone to go to Judge Knapp's website and listen to this podcast with Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. He's a highly decorated security member of the United States. He served with Colin Powell. He served in the early aughts in a lot of prominent positions. And he has said that his coalition has helped Mahmoud Abbas create the motion, the letter, or the request that is required in order for global military intervention to liberate and protect the people of Gaza. So what this means here is on September 22nd, when we have the next UN Assembly, it's going to be outside of the borders of the United States, meaning that President Abbas can put in his motion. He can formally request the intervention that the rest of the world has been begging for 2 years now. So this is absolutely huge news, and you're not going to see it anywhere except right here. So what I encourage you to do is go give this video some traction. There's a little snippet here on Finney Films on TikTok. You can go ahead and take a look at the most important snippet. But most importantly, all of the emails that we should still be sending daily, if not weekly, just tell your representatives that you support the resolution proposed by Colonel Wilkerson. And as a constituent, you will not be supporting any politician that does not support Mr. Wilkinson's resolution that will be presented to the UN Assembly September 22nd. I hope this gets us some traction. This is very big news.
Yes, it is. And can you imagine if this resolution does get presented, and if all the member nations are able to vote on it, and send UN troops into Gaza to stop this? I mean, that's going to really screw up Bibi Netanyahu's plans for a greater Israel, don't you think? I think so. Anyway, I hope that you're enjoying this broadcast. I'm doing a lot to be able to bring you the audio receipts, so nobody can say, hey, Dave said that, Dave said this. No. I'm not going to be taken over the coals because of something that I said. You should be taking these monsters over the coals because of not only what they've said, but what they've done. And America and the world is waking up to this. It's called the noticing. And the point is, I'm curious to find out at what point do we all realize that it's up to us. You know, we can't wait for them to legislate themselves. No, that's not going to happen. It's up to the people, and not just the people here in the United States, but people all over the world. You see what's going on in France right now? What's going on in Ireland? What's going on in Spain? What's going on in Nepal? People are rising up all over the world. But Americans? No, we're sitting on our butts. When do we, as Americans, stand up? When do we break out the pitchforks and the torches and start storming the castles? Or not necessarily the castles, but maybe the state capitol, or maybe the city hall, or maybe whatever. When do we start realizing that, yes, we are targeted for annihilation? And I'm using that word specifically. They keep pushing this death shot. You know, yes, it's a bioweapon. We know that now. I mean, the jury's in. All the information is there. And it's insanity. And it's all of these different issues, not just the vaccine. As a matter of fact, Ann Vandersteel, she made a documentary. It was posted on Friday, last Friday. It's called Taken, State-Sanctioned Kidnapping. Do you know how many millions of children are going missing every year? I would suggest you go to Rumble, because this thing was blocked. But if you go to Rumble and just type in Steele News, and you'll find it. It's called Taken. I suggest you watch it. It's almost an hour long. And yeah, I mean, I realize this is another issue altogether, the child sex trafficking thing. But I mean, these are monsters. They not only want to kill us, but they want to destroy the coming generation as well. Anyway, I hope that I know that this is a tough pill to swallow. The truth usually is, but I mean, if you're enjoying the broadcast, I appreciate it. And if you would click like, share, and subscribe, and more importantly, word of mouth, spread the word. Trying to get some smarts knocked into the heads of the American people. Please wake up. Please wake up. All right, that said, folks, this is it for the Tuesday edition of the WTF Reports. I appreciate your listenership. I'll be back again tomorrow with more of the news they hope and pray you never hear. I'm Dave vonKleist, your host. And again, click like, share, and subscribe. And hey, that'll wrap it up for the Taco Tuesday version of the WTF Reports. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay free, and I will see you tomorrow.